Hey guys, it's Generalkidd here. How's everyone doing today? So, for today's video, we're going to be covering the secret weapons in Halo 4 that you normally can't use. So, I've sort of covered this topic a while ago in a separate video. In fact, I covered quite a few things in that video, but that was using an older version of MCC and like what was included in the older maps of MCC. But now that the Halo 4 modules are out, there's a lot of hidden stuff in the tag files. A lot of cut content, a lot of unused stuff. So let's get right into it and see what we got. The first secret weapon that you normally can't use is called the XSR, which is actually just the Halo Reach DMR. And it's mostly intact from Halo Reach. It's missing its sound effects really, but it still works. It's still got the right animations. Some things like the scope's a little weird as well. Next up we have the Blam Bomb. This, I think, is some kind of like prototype version or test version of the extraction weapon that you use, but I'm not sure. It actually kind of reminds me of one of the cut weapons in Halo Infinite, which wouldn't be too surprising because since it's the same engine as, well, mostly the same engine as the previous Halo games, a lot of stuff did get left over all the way from like Halo 4. But next up we have the Covenant Power Module. And this one is, well, it's the Covenant Power Module left over from Reach. Except the animations are kind of broken on it now. You kind of hold it like a turret, sort of, but like the angle's all weird. Next up we have the Hunter LMG, which is just George's chain gun. But it doesn't fire bullets anymore. It fires, well, Hunter cannon shots. And you can fire it pretty fast as well. It's a pretty deadly weapon. But it's based off, it uses the model of George's chain gun. Next up, we have the Jackal shield, which is pretty consistent with older shields from Halo 2. Well, throughout pretty much all the Halo games, in that the Jackal shields are typically separate weapons. And there's also, just like in the older Halo games, also the Jackal Major shield, which is just a different color, but pretty much the same as the regular Jackal shield. So, not much difference there, or compared to the older games. Next up we have what's just called the Flag, which is a leftover flag from Halo Reach. It looks very similar to the Halo 4 version of the flag, except the flag banner is, it's the Noble Team logo, and I believe it's flipped upside down too. And also the little skull at the top of the flag, it's untextured as well. So that's another thing that's left over. Next we have the Storm Attach Beam, and this is, it looks like an almost complete weapon actually. It's just the textures aren't as polished as the final weapon would be, but I believe this is some kind of prototype sniper, like Forerunner sniper, kind of like the binary rifle. There's also like an NPC version of it. There's actually NPC's version of quite a few weapons. I'm not going to show all of them, but I'll just show this one example. Most of the NPC versions, you have to like charge the weapon in order to fire it. And I assume this is probably meant to be used by knights or something like that. But it's pretty much the same as the regular version, just you have to charge it up to shoot it, kind of like the railgun. Next we have the Storm Bishop Beam. This one's an interesting weapon actually, in that I'm not entirely sure like what its purpose was meant to be. But when you fire it, it just shoots out like a constant beam, and it locks onto like certain markers on the target, like their arms, their head, or the legs. And if you fire it on certain bipeds or certain objects, it plays like a weird sound effect too. Like if I shoot these like spawn bipeds, it doesn't really make any sound. If I shoot my friend here, it makes a loud, very loud sound, and it does the same with the mongooses as well. So I'm not exactly sure like why that is. Next up we have the Storm Burst Pistol. This weapon may actually seem kind of familiar to you. It just fires these shots in bursts, but that might remind you of that one weapon from Halo 5, which, I forgot the name of the weapon, but Halo 5 basically has this kind of same weapon too. Next up we have the Storm Knife, or really just a knife, and it's a knife you use for assassinations, but it is technically a separate weapon that you can pick up, but I can't use it. I can't even melee with it, and apparently in third person, it's invisible too. Kind of like the unarmed weapon, which I tried to get working for this video, but it just wouldn't work. I just couldn't pick it up or anything. So it exists, but I just can't use it. But next up we have the Storm Pawn Head, which is what the crawlers use to shoot at you with. Like, I know they dropped the that one weapon, but it doesn't. It's not what they actually use. They have their own special weapon, and they have their own special sniper too, called the pawn head sniper, and they're both invisible weapons, and when they die, they drop like the actual weapon that players can use, but they do have their own versions of these weapons. Next up, we have the Storm Stasis rifle. This one's a really cool one, actually. It fires like this, kind of like an energy field, and if you step into it, it kind of like slows you down. It like freezes you, kind of, not entirely, but like you kind of go into slow motion in there, and it's meant to like slow like enemies down, or it even works on vehicles too. It would have been cool if that made it into a final weapon, because like, you know, someone's like charging you with like a vehicle, you could actually like slow it down and like dodge it, which it could have been pretty cool in a sandbox. Next up, we have the target locator. Halo 4 does have one, but this one is the leftover one from Reach. Same model and still works pretty well. The missiles it fires down are a little bit different than the one in Reach, but the weapon itself is pretty much the same. Another leftover thing from Reach is the energy sword. The effects on it are missing though, so it doesn't quite look the same, but it is pretty much the old one. And you can see the difference here. If I swap it with the Halo 4 energy sword, there is a difference. So next up, we have the Scarab Gun. So there is no actual Scarab Gun in the game, but the projectiles for the Scarab beam shots are still left over. So I just applied it to this weapon here, and so I can fire it. And the Scarab beam in Halo 4, and I think in Halo Reach too. Like, I think this is left over from Reach actually, even though Reach never really used it much. But the shots are so powerful. The blast radius is huge and it's very deadly, much more deadly than the Halo 2 Scarab Gun. Alright, and next up we have the Halo Reach plasma pistol. It's looks mostly intact, except the little, you know, charging icon, the little hologram on the plasma pistol. It's, you know, it's not working. It's just that little piece there. And most of the sound effects are missing too, so that's another thing that didn't make it over, but it's still there. Next up, we have these two interesting grenades. They look just like the pulse grenades, but they're actually called, one of them is a needle grenade, and the other is like the disruption grenade. I couldn't actually get them to work, and when you spawn them in, they just use the model of the pulse grenade, so I'm not entirely sure what they do. But if I get them to work, I'll do it in another video. And the last thing we have is the frag grenades, which are leftover Reach frag grenades. And just like the needle and pulse grenades, if I actually picked these up, I couldn't use them. I'm not sure if it's like missing an animation or something, but it just wouldn't work. But I can pick them up, I just can't use them. But yeah, so that's pretty much it for all the secret weapons in Halo 4 you normally can't use. There were like a couple other like weird things here and there that I was unable to spawn in, or if I could spawn them in, I just couldn't pick them up or use them, or they would crash the game or something like that. So there are kind of a few other things, and I might have, if I missed anything else, you know, feel free to let me know. But other than that, if you enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like and leave thoughts and comments. Like I said, if I missed anything, let me know in the comments down below. But I think I covered most of the major ones, at least the ones that I could get to work. But yeah, so aside from that, you know, let me know your thoughts in the comments. And if there's anything else for me to check out, link to, also let me know. But make sure to subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you all next time. Bye, guys.